Imagine walking through a rainforest, hearing birds sing, insects buzz, monkeys scream in the distance, and then noticing a river that's literally steaming like someone forgot to turn off Earth's giant kettle. That sounds like the opening scene of a fantasy movie where the hero ignores every warning sign and immediately dies. But this place actually exists. Hidden deep inside the Peruvian Amazon is a river so hot that it can reach temperatures close to the boiling point of water, not kind of warm. Not great for a spa day. We are talking hot enough to cook small animals alive if they fall in. Which immediately raises one question. Who looked at this giant boiling river and thought, I wonder if I should touch it? Humans have an incredible ability to ignore common sense whenever curiosity is involved. For years, many scientists didn't even believe stories about this river. The Amazon isn't located near active volcanoes, so a boiling river sounded about as believable as finding a microwave in medieval Europe. Normally, rivers get hot because volcanic magma sits relatively close to the surface. Iceland has geothermal rivers. Yellowstone has steaming pools. That all makes sense. Peru's boiling river doesn't. It's hundreds of kilometers away from any major volcano. So where is all that heat coming from? The answer is somehow both less magical and somehow even stranger. Rainwater slowly sinks deep underground through cracks in Earth's crust. As it travels downward, it reaches incredibly hot layers of rock heated by Earth's internal energy. Eventually, that superheated water is forced back toward the surface through geological faults. Think of Earth as one gigantic pressure cooker that's been running continuously for 4.5 billion years. The result? A river that constantly releases enormous amounts of heat into a tropical rainforest. Some sections reach around 93 degrees Celsius. That's hot enough to cause severe burns almost instantly. Scientists studying the river have reported seeing unfortunate animals that accidentally wandered in. Birds, small mammals, reptiles. Once they hit the water, escaping isn't exactly easy. Imagine accidentally stepping into what looks like an ordinary stream and discovering Mother Nature secretly replaced it with soup. Even the air feels strange there. Mist rises from the surface all day, wrapping parts of the jungle in thick clouds that make everything look slightly haunted. Trees disappear into steam, bird calls echo through fog. Water bubbles quietly beneath branches covered in vines. It's less beautiful rainforest. More, the forest is actively trying to cook lunch. Of course, local indigenous communities have known about this place for generations. To them, it wasn't some impossible scientific mystery. It was simply part of the landscape. Sometimes modern science acts like reality, only begins once someone publishes a research paper. Meanwhile, local communities are standing there saying, yeah, we've been avoiding that murder river for centuries. One of the biggest misconceptions is that the river boils everywhere. It doesn't. Some areas are cooler. Others become dangerously hot. That inconsistency actually makes it scarier. Imagine driving on a road where random sections suddenly become lava. The problem isn't knowing something is dangerous. The problem is not knowing exactly where it becomes dangerous. Researchers have spent years measuring temperatures, studying underground fault systems, and trying to understand how such an enormous geothermal system functions without nearby volcanic activity. Even now, there are still questions. Exactly how deep does the water travel? How extensive are the underground channels? Could similar hidden geothermal systems exist elsewhere beneath forests we've barely explored? Nature rarely gives complete answers. It just hands scientists another list of questions and quietly waits. The boiling river also reminds us how weird our planet really is. We like imagining Earth as stable, predictable, safe. Mountains stay where they are, rivers flow downhill. Water is supposed to cool you off. Except sometimes water becomes the dangerous part. Your brain constantly builds shortcuts about how the world works. Water equals safe, forest equals life, river equals drinking source. Then reality throws a boiling rainforest river into the equation, and your entire mental operating system crashes like someone unplugged the computer. Psychologists call these mental shortcuts heuristics. They're incredibly useful. Without them, every glass of water would require a full engineering analysis before taking a sip. But they also create blind spots. Our expectations become so powerful that anything violating them feels almost supernatural. That's why videos of the boiling river spread so quickly online. People don't just find it interesting, they find it offensive, not morally offensive, logically offensive. It feels like Earth is breaking one of its own rules. And maybe that's why places like this fascinate us. They remind us that our understanding of the planet is still incomplete. We've mapped cities, built satellites, sent robots to other planets. Yet hidden inside one rainforest is a river that spent centuries making people question reality. Basically, Earth looked at the rulebook, laughed, and started boiling a river in the middle of a jungle just to keep everyone humble. Some places have terrible names because of dramatic marketing. Then there's this place, the door to hell, honestly. Who hears that name and thinks, vacation? Located in the Karakum Desert of Turkmenistan, this enormous crater has been burning continuously for decades. Not days, not months, decades. It's essentially a giant hole in the ground filled with fire. As if the planet accidentally opened its barbecue settings and forgot how to turn them off. The story begins back in 1971. Soviet engineers were drilling for natural gas when something unexpected happened. The ground beneath the drilling rig collapsed. Suddenly there was a massive crater, not ideal. Even worse, huge amounts of methane gas began escaping into the atmosphere. Methane is incredibly flammable and also much better than carbon dioxide at trapping heat in the atmosphere. So engineers made what probably sounded like a perfectly reasonable decision. They set the gas on fire, the assumption it would burn for a few days. Maybe a week, then everything would be finished. Nature heard this plan and apparently replied, "That's adorable." More than 50 years later, it's still burning, day after day after day. Flames dance across the crater 24 hours a day, fueled by underground gas reserves that continue feeding the fire. At night, the entire desert glows orange. Standing nearby feels like looking into some giant furnace buried inside Earth itself. Heat blasts upward from the crater, the air shimmers. Flames flicker across hundreds of vents inside the pit. It's mesmerizing. Which is exactly how dangerous things usually introduce themselves. Scientists still debate the exact size and complexity of the underground gas system feeding the fire. The crater itself is around 70 meters across. Big enough to swallow several houses. Standing on the edge isn't exactly comforting. The ground feels unstable, hot air rises continuously. Every instinct quietly whispers, maybe don't lean forward. Humans naturally lean forward anyway. There's something deeply psychological happening whenever people visit places like this. Our brains evolved to pay attention to fire. Long before smartphones hijacked our attention spans, fire was survival. It meant warmth, food, protection, danger. Fire activates ancient systems buried deep inside the brain. It's hypnotic because, for most of human history, ignoring fire was an excellent way to become extinct. So when people stare into the door to hell, they are responding to instincts millions of years older than civilization itself. Your brain doesn't just see flames. It sees one of the oldest survival signals ever encountered by our species. Then your imagination joins the conversation. Because giant burning holes naturally invite myths. Many visitors describe strange feelings standing nearby. Some say they feel watched. Others say it feels spiritually unsettling. A few swear the endless flames create the illusion that something is moving beneath them, the reality. Humans are exceptional pattern recognition machines. Sometimes a little too exceptional. Our brains constantly search for faces, movement, meaning, threats. Even random flickering firelight becomes suspicious after enough staring. This phenomenon explains why campfires sometimes appear to contain faces or figures dancing in the flames. It's called pareidolia. Your brain would rather invent a monster than accidentally miss a real one. Evolution prefers false alarms over permanent mistakes. Still, standing beside an endlessly burning crater in the middle of nowhere doesn't exactly help your rational thinking, especially after sunset. The darkness surrounding the crater makes the flames appear even brighter. Everything outside the light disappears. Your world shrinks to fire and shadows. It's surprisingly easy to understand how ancient civilizations invented stories about gateways to the underworld. If someone transported you there without context, you'd probably invent the exact same story. The irony is that this terrifying landmark wasn't created by ancient gods. It was created by humans trying to solve a problem, which somehow feels even more human. We create one disaster, then accidentally build a tourist attraction. The crater has become one of Turkmenistan's most famous landmarks, attracting photographers, adventurers, scientists, and people who apparently hear burning hole of eternal fire as a travel recommendation. Nature didn't actually break its own rules here. It simply combined geology, chemistry, and one unfortunate engineering decision into something that looks impossible. Sometimes reality doesn't need supernatural explanations. It just needs enough methane and one really optimistic estimate. Basically, humanity tried putting a tiny match on a giant gas leak, and Earth responded with the longest "I told you so" in history. If aliens wanted to prank humanity without actually invading, they'd probably create something exactly like Blood Falls. Picture this. You're standing in one of the coldest places on Earth. Everything around you is painfully white. Snow stretches across the landscape like someone spilled flour over an entire continent. Glaciers tower above you. The silence is so complete that even your own breathing sounds suspicious. Then you notice it. Bright red liquid pouring out of a glacier, not pink, not rusty orange, red. As if Antarctica itself just scraped its knee. Your brain immediately starts cycling through possibilities. Someone's injured. A horror movie is being filmed. The glacier has somehow developed internal organs. None of those are correct. Blood Falls sits at the edge of the Taylor Glacier in Antarctica, and despite looking like nature committed a crime, the waterfall isn't blood at all. Although your brain really wants it to be. This is one of those moments where your eyes and your common sense get into a heated argument. Your eyes scream, "That's blood." Your brain quietly replies, "I really hope you're wrong." Thankfully, science settles the debate. Hidden beneath the glacier lies an ancient lake that has been trapped under ice for roughly 2 million years. Think about that for a second. That water has been isolated longer than humans have even existed as a species. Your oldest leftovers have nothing on this. Inside that hidden lake is water packed with dissolved iron. When the water slowly seeps out through tiny cracks in the glacier, it finally reaches oxygen in the open air. And iron absolutely loves oxygen. The same reaction that turns an old bicycle rusty also transforms the flowing water into a deep crimson color. So what looks like blood is basically Earth experiencing the world's slowest rust problem. Which somehow doesn't make it much less creepy. Because context doesn't always beat instinct. Even after learning the explanation, most people still instinctively recoil when they first see pictures. That's because humans evolved to react incredibly fast to anything resembling blood. For millions of years, blood usually meant one of three things. You were injured, someone else was injured. Or something nearby was about to become everyone's problem. Evolution didn't reward people who calmly analyzed mysterious red liquids. It rewarded people who immediately paid attention. Your visual system still carries those ancient settings. It's basically running software that hasn't received an update since prehistoric times. Scientists studying Blood Falls uncovered another surprise. That ancient trapped lake isn't dead, far from it. Tiny microorganisms have survived inside the isolated water for millions of years without sunlight, no plants, no photosynthesis, no cheerful little food chain. Instead, these microbes survive by feeding on chemical reactions involving iron and sulfur. They are essentially living off geology. Imagine spending 2 million years in complete darkness eating rocks. Somehow, life found a way. These organisms have become incredibly valuable to researchers because they prove life can survive in places once considered impossible. That has enormous implications for places far beyond Antarctica. Take Mars or the icy moon Europa or Enceladus. If microbes can survive trapped beneath Antarctic ice for millions of years, maybe life elsewhere in our solar system doesn't need sunshine either. Maybe it's quietly hiding underground, waiting. Which is simultaneously exciting and slightly unsettling. Because every scientific discovery seems to answer one question and accidentally create 12 new ones. Blood falls also exposes one of the biggest weaknesses in human perception. Color, we trust it far too much. Red means danger, blue means cold. Green means safe, except poison frogs are colorful. Some deadly mushrooms look delicious, fire can burn blue. And glaciers can apparently bleed. Your brain constantly relies on visual shortcuts because fully analyzing every object would take forever. Imagine needing laboratory equipment every time you looked at soup. Instead, your mind guesses. Usually those guesses work. Sometimes they produce horrifying Antarctic waterfalls. There's another strange aspect that most people never think about. The water flowing from blood falls is incredibly salty. So salty, in fact, that it freezes at much lower temperatures than ordinary water. That's why liquid can still emerge from a glacier sitting in temperatures well below freezing. Nature basically hacked winter. It's another reminder that the world isn't governed by simple rules, it's governed by chemistry. Chemistry just enjoys making everything weird. Researchers continue studying this hidden ecosystem because it offers a glimpse into environments that have remained untouched for geological ages. It's almost like opening a time capsule from Earth's distant past. Except the time capsule leaks fake blood and contains bacteria that refuse to die. Basically, Antarctica managed to create the world's creepiest science experiment using nothing but iron, salt, and 2 million years of patience.